the study of trust. Catherine and her company, Path to Trust, have built some hugely impactful seminars, workshops, and professional coaching, all around this fundamental importance of building and sustaining trust in your organization. My purpose today is to touch on the important elements as they relate to sales, and to hope that you will recognize the importance and delve much deeper with Catherine and Path to Trust in the future. At this time, I do wish to give full and appropriate credit to Mr. Charles Feltman and his book, The Thin Book of Trust, upon which most of this seminar material is based. So let's take a look at today's agenda. We're going to build the case for trust, and we're going to focus on the sales environment, the applicability of trust in the sales world, going to define trust, spend a little time on the brain science, what's going on in our brains when we're developing trust, or we're developing distrust. We'll talk about the 4 domains or distinctions of trust, and then we'll summarize with a Q&A. And at this point, I would think that the time allotted will be no longer than 40 minutes, I assure you. So let's get going. First of all, I just want to refer to the screen that you have in front of you. At one point, I'm going to ask you to be typing in some answers to a question, and you will pull those down from the Q&A box and type your answers in and then hit send. I'll be able to see those answers, and we'll review them as a plenary group. Yep, that's me. But would you trust this guy? Basically, trust is generated in one of 2 ways. You're either the type of person who starts out trusting the other person from the first time you meet and either build on that trust or refute it as time goes on. Or you're the type of person who needs the person you meet to demonstrate and prove their trustworthiness from the get-go. Now, are you the type that starts out in trust and then measures your commitment to trust as the time goes on with this person? Or are you the type who does not trust this guy until he has demonstrated his trustworthiness to you? I love this guy. I like his jacket. Deal of lifetime, trust me. Now, I know that nobody on this webinar is even remotely like this person. The challenge is that in the world of sales, many jaded potential customers conjure up exactly this image, the used car salesman syndrome. A selfish person in it only for themselves. Well, if you don't inherently like or trust this salesperson, you're already building the case for unwavering trust. Do you believe that trust is important in your sales and selling environment? Do you want to trust the person or company you're buying from? As the company, do you trust your salespeople? As a salesperson, do you trust your company? And do you believe that unwavering trust from the customer will drive sustainable and profitable sales? Now, all of these questions are rhetorical, but all of the above questions are really our statements of the desired state. This is what we want. So trust in the sales environment. Let's start out with what is commonly referred to, where we typically spend our time thinking in the realm of the salesperson to the customer and dwell most of our analysis and effort on the customer trusting the salesperson. However, in order to create and sustain unwavering trust, we need to explore all of its elements in the sales environment. Does the salesperson trust the customer? Does the salesperson trust his or her own company? Does the company trust the salesperson? And lastly, does the customer trust the company, and does the customer trust the customer? Do they all trust each other over the long haul? So again, the focus here is not just in terms of does the customer trust the salesperson. Trust has to work both ways. It's a relationship, and it needs to work 3 ways when it involves the company, the salesperson, and the customer. Now, how would you define trust? So here's where I'd like you to pull down that Q&A and type in your comment now about how you personally define trust. And I'll give you people a few minutes to come up with those answers. Now, hopefully you found the Q&A box, and the question is simply, how would you personally define the word trust? One of you has said, believe in someone, value of opinion. Great answer. Another of you has said, demonstrating reliability, credibility, similar values. I love that, similar values. A couple more seconds for some more questions, or more answers, excuse me. How about here's one, confidential information remains confidential. Ah, yeah, let's not be blabbing around when we're not supposed to. Do we trust the confidentiality? And Catherine, I think you might want to answer this question live.
Which question is that, Graham?
How would you define trust, Catherine?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And I would probably say that when you value something and your values align with another person, and it quite often that can change in circumstances. But I do like that as my definition of trust.
Good one. And thank you, people, for putting your answers in. All good ones. Let's take a look at what Mr. Feldman referred to in terms of trust. And I'm just having a freeze screen here. Trust is defined as choosing to risk making something you value vulnerable to another person's actions. Something that you value, you're willing to share to another person's actions. Another definition might be a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. Trust is also defined as confidence placed in a person by making that person the nominal owner of property, whether that be intellectual property or physical property, to be held or used for the benefit of one or more others. So we saw a lot of elements in your answers and in these definitions around value, around truth, reliability, ability, strength, etc. Now I want to shift a little bit over to brain science. What's going on in our brains here? And I'd like you to bear with me in this definition that in effect you have two little sub-brains working within you, within all of us. One we would refer to as the thinking brain or the cognitive system, and the other is the feeling brain or the limbic system. Now, the thinking brain is where your critical thinking, your learning functions, problem assessment and solving, day-to-day calm and rational thinking resides. Everything you've learned in your life since you were born resides in your thinking brain. Now, there's something about the feeling brain, though. Its only purpose is to protect you, to sense danger and react. Do I eat it or does it eat me? So you've got both of those elements. One, the rational thought provoke. Two, the am I in danger? Now, both brains are always awake, but one of them is always going to be dominant. They cannot be equally functioning. So right now, as we participate in this webinar, I dare say that all of us are hugely on the thinking brain side, and our feeling brain is basically just ticking away, not being alarmed by anything. Now, when the feeling brain senses danger, it hijacks the thinking brain and effectively shuts it down. Now, why does it do that? Because it's sensing danger. Remember, do I eat it or does it eat me? Now, it is very binary in nature. It either feels there's danger or it feels there isn't. Degrees of danger, not so. Now, this is when you start having feelings like, I wasn't thinking straight. I froze up. I couldn't catch my breath. My heart was racing, etc. And that's because your feeling brain is preparing your body to fight, run, or God forbid, freeze. Now allow me here to give you a sales example. You're having a darn good sales day. Just had a great meeting with a customer and secured a sizable order. Your thinking brain is on top of the world. It's in total control. But you get a call while you're in the car, on Bluetooth of course, and it's your boss, who in a very stern and menacing voice tells you your sales are not good enough, and he's increasing your quota by 25%, and failure is not an option. At that point, your idyllic day has crashed and burned, and your feeling brain has cranked into full gear with its response to the danger signals. You're going to start awfulizing your jobs in jeopardy, no money to send junior to college, shame, failure, all of those things. This, folks, by the way, is not a good time to be driving a car. Your thinking brain has been hijacked by the feeling brain to ready you for fight, flight, or freeze. Now, there are many techniques to combat this hijacking, which unfortunately we don't have the time today to get into. However, the example is meant to illustrate to you the very real actions of these two brains and what they take and how they cannot be equals. One is always dominant. So the thinking brain is basically wired for trust. And the feeling brain is basically wired for distrust. Fight, flight, or freeze response. Now think how this all can and does affect the selling cycle and sales success. Imagine this poor sales rep in my example having to immediately after the boss's call make another sales call. Bad chances for immediate recovery or success. Now if there's trust in the world, there's also distrust. And distrust can be defined as the assessment of what is important to me is not safe with this person or in this situation. The feeling that someone or something cannot be relied on. To regard with doubt or suspicion. And it creates a lack of confidence in that person. Now go back to the boss phoning and saying, I'm raising your quota by 25% and failure is not an option. Are your feelings towards your boss at that point trust or distrust? What do you think your boss's feelings are towards you? Trust or distrust? Now that's a tricky question because she could very well trust that you're going to listen and you're going to act in an appropriate manner and you're going to deliver the numbers. On the other hand, she could be telling you this to set you up for failure, which is a distrust statement. But you know what's interesting is that with clarity of purpose and clear understanding of the other's intention, these two could in fact have worked this all out and moved towards trust. I apologize for this busy slide, but it really talks about the differences between trust and distrust. It's very important for us to grab a handle on that. So when we assess the other person, in a trusting environment, I trust them, I'm safe with them. In a distrusting environment, it's dangerous for me to trust them, and this person poses a threat. When I think about myself, in a trusting environment, I'm safe, I handle whatever happens, I've got lots of options. My thinking brain's in total command. I can be open and forthcoming. In distrust, no, I'm not safe. I can't handle what they may do. I need to protect myself. I'm going to fight. I'm going to freeze. I'm going to run. Associated emotions in trusting world are curiosity, generosity, authenticity, and hope. In a distrusting environment, it's fear, anger, submission, resignation. Our behaviors in a trusting environment are cooperative, collaborative, engaging, supportive, optimistic. Our behaviors in a distrusting situation are defensive, resisting, blaming the other person, judging them negatively, avoiding them, withholding information, pessimism, giving out information you're not supposed to, as one of the examples from you people came. And the brain science refers to the fact that in a trust, your thinking brain is in full control. Your distrust, the feeling brain, or something that they refer to in emotional intelligence circles as the amygdala, is in a defensive mode. Fight, flight, or freeze. So that's the world of distrust versus trust. Now let's shift gears and talk about the 4 domains of trust. And this is where we really get into the guts of the seminars and workshops that we do. We really spend a tremendous amount of time building examples in each of these 4 domains of what does trust look like? What does distrust look like? What do I need to work on? What am I strong at? What am I weak at? What is my company collaboratively or collectively? What are they good at? What are they not good at? But the overarching distinction that I want to make is something that I call cause to buy versus sell to, which will cement trust. It goes like this. How many of you can vividly recall a purchase you made that upon getting it home, you had a bad case of buyer's remorse? I'm sure you have some examples. Now that happens most often because you were sold the item. You caved to the seller's pitch, where your true needs were not explored properly by that salesperson. Think of this critical distinction of cause to buy versus sell to as we explore these domains, because would you not want to be in an environment where people are buying from you because they're sensing, they're understanding, they're agreeing that they need that item or service and that you are the best provider of that service? That's the trusting relationship we look for. So going to the top, sincerity. I mean what I say what I mean, and act accordingly. No false pretenses. Reliability. Can you be counted on? When you talk to your customer and tell them you're going to deliver the goods by such and such a date, or you're going to do that seminar for them, or that product knowledge session, or whatever it is, can they count on you to deliver what you promised in a professional manner? Competence. I know I can do this. I don't know I can do that. It's understanding your limits, understanding your strengths, your competencies, product knowledge, salesmanship, and all of those. And finally, care. We're in this together. Care is that balancing act of who do you work for. I've often used an analogy with my customers that I work 51% for my company and 49% for them. And what I mean by that is that we are in this together. And I value the relationship with you. I care about it as my customer. I'm going to call on you time and time again, and I'm going to count on you. And to do that, I want you to know that I care. I understand your needs. I will listen to your needs. I'll listen to your concerns, and we will move into a business solutions partnership through caring. And that business solutions orientation is with everything I do, am, and say. Taking it a little bit further, going with sincerity, check with people regularly to align expectations with intentions. Check with your company. If you're the company, check with your salespeople. As a salespeople, check with your customer. Check all of these things to determine need versus want and support that. And always think in terms of their eyes and the true impact you're having, which unfortunately may be different than your intent. We tend to measure ourselves by our intent. Unfortunately, and in realistic terms, the customer will measure you by the impact that you have upon them. That's true in any relationship. Take the word customer out, call it spouse, call it partner, call it associate, and there is always a huge challenge around intent versus impact. Is our intent aligned with the impact we're having? That's the perfect world. That's where trust will reside. Under reliability, when you make offers to other people, be clear about what it is you will do and possibly what you won't do as well. No surprises, no false expectations. I have a story around that one related to how I always described back orders. And I used to describe them, I still do, that back orders are a fact of life. The back order is not the problem. The problem is the communications around the back order and the solutions around the back order. So it would be a wonderful world we lived in where all of our products were delivered all the time, on time, in the right quantity. Not particularly a truism. So all I mean by that, from a reliability perspective, is I will give the straight goods to the customer, and when there's a back order, I will tell them when there's a back order. I'll tell them why there's a back order. I'll tell them when we're going to deliver that good. I will offer solutions around alternate product, be those alternate products from my own company or from another company. I will do all of those things for the long-term relationship with that customer. So yes, you're going to have back orders, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, but we're going to manage them, and I'm going to manage them in the best way I possibly can to your satisfaction. Now, competence. Honesty to the other person about your abilities. When you say something, say so. That you don't know it, say that you do know it. Tell somebody, if you don't know something, what you're going to do about that. That you're going to go and get the answers. I once had a customer told me, I can see right through your lies every single time. Don't do it. And what she meant by that was not anything perverse or anything negative to me. It was, please tell me the truth. If you don't know something, just say so. I'll respect you and trust you more than if you give me bogus information. And I think that just stands to reason. Care. Care equals empathy. Goes back to sincerity as well. True understanding of the position the other person is in and demonstrating your sincere care. Those are the 4 domains of trust: sincerity, reliability, competence, and caring. Now let's just finish up and talk a little bit about what would it mean to have unwavering trust in sales. What would unwavering trust look like? Well, it would look like a customer for life. And your companies may be doing this already, and more companies are doing so, and that is measuring the value of a life customer. the dollar value of a life customer. And they will extrapolate that across what that particular customer can and will buy, the profitability of that customer, the true value of holding that customer, hence the term for life. If you had unwavering trust between the customer and the salesperson, the customer and the company, and vice versa, you would find more and more customers for life. They become an outstanding reference source. When people talk about somebody else, what do they say? We all do it. We all say things about other people, about other companies. Well, our customers are doing the same thing. They're talking to their peer groups. They're telling them who's the trustworthy company, who's the trustworthy salesperson, who's the trustworthy representative to them, and why. And that goes a long way in developing new customers. A consistent and true transactional partner. Now here, this one is true partner beyond transactions. Because I look at transactional sales as, here's your price, buy it, goodbye. I look at partnership that goes well beyond the transaction itself. It goes to information resourcing. It goes to training. It goes to product knowledge. It goes to business solutions partnership. And that will occur when there's unwavering trust. It will not occur when there's distrust. A customer will take decisions beyond price. You got to love this one. Right? When you are being compared to your competitors, is it strictly on price? We can get into a long discussion about group purchasing organizations or customers that are pitting supplier A against supplier B against supplier C and trying to get it down to the simplistic comparison of you want $1 for your item and they want $1.05, but this guy over here wants 95 cents, so I'm going to buy from the 95-cent customer or supplier. Doesn't that drive you crazy? But a customer who takes decisions beyond price, service levels, dependability, the quality of the product, the quality of the people, the tenure of the sales representative, and many, many other aspects that they'll take into consideration to tie break price and or to give you the advantage in a premium price market. I never had the luxury of working in the sales world with the lowest price. Never, ever did. Always my price and the company that I represented, the price was higher. So we had to take this one very seriously. And I, as a salesperson, took it so seriously that it was directly related to unwavering trust. That if my customers trusted me, if I delivered everything I ever said I would on time in the highest quality possible, they would take me beyond price. They would take the quality of the product, the cradle to grave price or cost, if you will. They would take all of that into consideration, and I would be able to, oftentimes, if not always, beat out the lower priced supplier. I always also found that the lowest priced supplier was very transactional in nature, and the relationship lasted no longer than the length of the contract or the cycle of the purchase. What would it mean? We're in it together for the long term. I think I've referred to that many times over the last few minutes. It's not a transactional basis that you're trying to create with your customers and your services. It's a long-term relationship, a long-term profitable one. Profitable for them as well. Think in terms of, yes, you measure profit by dollars and cents often, your P&L statements. Customers will measure profit by the ability to use the product or service properly and efficiently and effectively. And lastly, everything becomes an asset. You're an asset, your company's an asset, your customer is an asset. Now, isn't that a nice mindset versus this is a transactional relationship, I don't trust you, I distrust that you're doing the right thing for me, you're the used car salesman with that fancy jacket on that we had in one of the early slides. Well, that's not where we want to be. We want to be in the asset mindset. And that is what I wanted to share with you today. Just want to go back to this slide, the 4 domains of trust. This is really the crux of trust, is building on these domains of sincerity, meaning what you say, doing what you mean, acting accordingly, being consistent, being reliable across all realms of the product and services that you represent, being competent, knowing what you're doing it well, doing it consistently well, and caring, making that 51%, 49% truism work for both parties. Yes, of course, we all know who you get paid by, and we all know that it's only a saying, but it's a saying that has heart, and it means so much when customers feel that you're working with them, for them, and you're coming across not as selling things to them, but causing them to buy because your product or service is the one that best meets their needs, not their wants, but their needs. Okay. So lastly, if you have questions or comments, you could pose them now. I think we're at about 30 minutes here. I said I'd do no more than 40, and I promise that. It's nothing wrong with finishing early. If you do have questions or comments and you wanted to pose them now, that's fine. If, on the other hand, you wanted to send your comments through, then you can send them through to either myself, Jim Irving at bell.net, or Catherine who is Catherine at pathtotrust.com. Either of us would be happy to respond to you, would want to respond, and would want to carry the dialogue much further with you than we've been able to in a brief webinar.
Thanks, Jim. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Really greatly appreciate sharing your knowledge and insight. I could relate to a lot of the things you were saying during that webinar, so it was really, really insightful for me as well. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed our webinar, and like Jim says, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us if you have any questions or want to learn more about our programs. I will be sending a recorded version of this webinar to each one of you so that you can share with your staff. They make fantastic lunch and learns for your sales team, so pass that along to your sales leaders. And wishing everybody a wonderful afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. Thanks, Jim.